What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here, and welcome to our daily show where we discuss the fourth stimulus check update, what's going on in the United States, Washington, D.C., money, investing, and the next stimulus package, which has been announced at $3.5 trillion. Although Senate Democrat moderate Joe Manchin has decided, the one and only Democrat, well, maybe there's one or two others, but mainly Senator Joe Manchin has decided he doesn't want to spend $3.5 trillion. He's the one main Democrat that has decided he wants to spend less than $3.5 trillion. And thus, they're trying to convince him that it should be $3.5 trillion. And Senator Joe Manchin wants to spend much, much less. He has decided that he wants to spend $1.5 trillion. Yeah, less than half. And now the Senate Democrats and the Democrats in general are kind of scrambling to decide what they're going to do with this one Senate Democrat who is now holding up the entire next stimulus package. President Joe Biden thinks that he will be able to convince Senator Joe Manchin that to go along with the rest of the Democrats. And this one senator, Joe Manchin, is holding up the entire stimulus package. Yeah, we're going to be talking about this next stimulus package, and what is going on in our country in this video. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. Remember, new videos come out here on our channel every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This next stimulus package is supposed to be the largest stimulus package ever. The third stimulus check package was $1.9 trillion. This next stimulus package is supposed to be way larger than that. But Joe Manchin has now thrown a wrench in the entire package. And we will see. If you find these videos helpful, don't forget to hit the like button, and let's jump right in. Other moderate Democrats want the $3.5 trillion spending plan to remove the limits on state and local tax deductions, also known as the SALT tax deduction, which provides additional tax deductions for state and local tax deductions, especially in high tax states like New York and California, New Jersey, among other states. A host of moderate Democrats say they won't support President Biden's $3.5 trillion package without a repeal of the cap on state and local tax deductions known as SALT, which currently has a cap of $10,000 on it. The Democrats, many from New York and New Jersey, are angry that former President Donald Trump's tax law capped the SALT tax deductions at $10,000. A spokesman for House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says that a SALT cap repeal is an important priority in the reconciliation bill. Quote, "We need to have this state and local tax deduction built a whole system around it," said New York Democrats. A fight over the cap on state and local tax deduction could prove Democrats' next hurdle in passing the $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation. A host of moderate Democrats, many from New York and New Jersey, have protested former President Donald Trump's 2017 tax cuts for capping how much taxpayers in their states can deduct from their federal tax obligations. Representative Josh Gottheimer, Mickey Sherrill, Bill Pascrell of New Jersey and New York, and Thomas Suozzi say they won't support any legislation that doesn't restore the full deduction for state and local taxes known as SALT. Quote, "We need to have this state and local tax deduction. We built a whole system around it. People are leaving our states, and when they leave, it leaves behind a hole in our revenues. Quote, we're in competition with states that do not insure their children, do not pay their teachers, and do not have mass transit, and think that climate change is a hoax. And as a result, their costs are cheaper." Trump's tax law limits the SALT deductions to $10,000, meaning that residents in higher tax states like New York and New Jersey could no longer deduct the full value of their state tax obligations from their federal bill. No limit existed before the Trump tax cuts. So basically, if your state and local taxes, if you paid more than $10,000 in state and local taxes, you can now only deduct $10,000 from your taxes even though you paid more than $10,000 in taxes from state and local taxes. So you can only deduct $10,000 off your tax return, even though you actually paid more than $10,000 in taxes. So you pay more than $10,000 in taxes, but you can actually only deduct $10,000 in taxes. Now, some critics of this say that this is actually a tax cut for the wealthy because wealthy millionaires and billionaires would benefit from this because billionaires that pay potential millions of dollars in state and local taxes would benefit from this greatly. But a lot of middle income people that live in high tax states get hurt from this greatly because, well, high tax states, this really does pinch a lot of the middle class people because, well, they live in high tax states. And, if you pay $1,000 a month in property taxes and state taxes and all those taxes combined, that can really pinch some of the middle class, and then they can't even deduct it past the $10,000 maximum. So it's a little bit of a give and take, but moderate Democrats are demanding this be added to the stimulus package as conditions. And remember that you need all 50 Democrats from the Senate to be in agreement to pass this next stimulus package. And you need 99% of the Democrats in the House to be in agreement as well. And this is where negotiations are going to come into play. And this is exactly how the third stimulus check package got passed, because this is, again, this is why I kind of say this sometimes. The negotiation part is the most important part. And this is why the bill hasn't been written, because the negotiation part is more important than pretty much everything, because you're going to get moderate Democrats to think one thing, progressive Democrats to think another thing. The moderate Democrats want to spend less, and they want certain things included in the bill, like the SALT tax deduction, state and local tax deduction. They think if somebody pays $15,000 in state and local taxes, that you paid your taxes, you should be able to deduct that from your tax return because you already paid your taxes. So should be able to deduct that. And in all fairness, that does make sense because you already paid your taxes, so it should be a deduction. I mean, tax 101 is if you paid your taxes, you deduct that from your tax return. It's pretty much tax 101. But nonetheless, there's a tax cap on $10,000 that was enacted from the Trump tax cuts in 2017. So that's what the moderates is kind of a demand from it's not necessarily a new demand. It actually kind of propped up a few weeks ago. But the progressive Democrats, they want to spend more than $3.5 trillion. So this is kind of where the negotiations are going to come into play. Joe Manchin wants to spend less. Kyrsten Sinema wants to spend less. But there's a lot of Democrats that want to spend more than $3.5 trillion. And this is kind of where the negotiations are going to come into play. Just because one or two people want to spend less than $3.5 trillion does not necessarily mean that the other 100 people that want to spend more does not necessarily mean that one or two people are going to get their way. But you need every single Democrat in the Senate to vote yes, and you need 99% of them in the House to vote yes. Because remember, not a single Republican supports this bill. Not a single Republican is going to vote yes in this bill. Not a single Republican voted yes on the third stimulus check package. So when you got the third stimulus check, not a single Republican voted yes on that. A lot of average everyday Americans do not even know that, believe it or not. And I'm not picking sides. I'm just telling you guys the truth. So all the Republicans voted no on the motion to proceed on the fourth stimulus package. And they're all going to vote no when it all comes down to the final vote on this next stimulus package. So all the Democrats need to come to agreement on this of what's going to finally be in the bill. And that's where they all need to come to an agreement on what's going to be in the bill, the size of the bill, and what stimulus items are going to be in the bill as well. And that's why the negotiation part is pretty much the most important thing. We have 50 Democrats from the Senate and 220 Democrats from the House. So we have 270 people, even though they're all Democrats, put 270 people in a room, or 50 Democrats in one room and 220 in another room. Because really the senators and the House, they really don't communicate very well. I mean, largely they're two different groups. It's not like they're in the same room communicating. The House kind of sticks to themselves and the Senate kind of sticks to themselves. So They really don't communicate, to be honest. They communicate a little bit, very, very little. I mean, to be honest, they kind of communicate more through the media than they do through themselves. They kind of have Twitter fights, and that's kind of how they communicate. They communicate very, very little through each other. In fact, we have a new demand from some moderate Democrats from the House that is saying that they want them to communicate more because they don't want to see the House pass a bill and then send it over to the Senate and have the Senate change the bill and have to do what they did with the third stimulus check package, which is what they did last time. The House passed the bill and then the Senate changed it dramatically. They don't want to see them do that again. So they actually want to see some communication, some cooperation between the House Democrats and the Senate Democrats this time around so that they actually can pass the same bill, which would actually make sense. But, doing that and saying that is two different things, right? This has actually sent the stock market, the Dow and the S&P 500, down for 3 straight days after Joe Manchin's not kind words from the stimulus package, the next $3.5 trillion package, has sent the stock market down for 3 days in a row, which could actually present a buying opportunity for some people looking to enter into the market. But the stock market has been down for 3 days in a row. Some people say largely because of the turmoil over this next stimulus package, which has largely been put on pause a little bit because of Joe Manchin's remarks. Now, why one group is calling for a forced stimulus check to help retirees stave off rising costs and for a forced stimulus check to be included in this next stimulus package. Check this out. The Social Security cost of living adjustment for 2022 could be the highest that it has been in decades. The latest estimates from the Senior Citizens League, a nonpartisan senior group, point to a possible 6.2% increase for next year based on the latest consumer price index data. In comparison, this year's bump in benefits was just 1.3%. This possible 6.2% increase could be the largest in up to the last 40 years. Yet next year's prospective increase comes as seniors are already facing rising costs. Moreover, higher Medicare Part B premiums and taxes on benefits could also eat away at that adjustment. Now, the Senior Citizens League is hoping to do something about it. Last week, the organization sent an email to supporters informing them of its plan to petition members of Congress for new $1,400 stimulus checks just for seniors. Quote, "We have really hit a nerve with that first email," said Mary Johnson, Social Security and Medicare policy analyst at the Senior Citizens League. It was an immediate response of support for the idea. The group received more than 100 replies from seniors who shared their stories. More than 50 of those messages mentioned having to cut down to one meal a day or trouble affording groceries. Many of the seniors who responded also said they were cutting back on prescription drugs. While next year's cost of living adjustment could be the highest it's been in years, for many seniors, that's cause of concern. A big cost of living adjustment makes low-income seniors nervous that they are going to be facing adjustments for their Medicare costs to food benefits, rental subsidies, and that sort of thing. New stimulus checks could be a way to get extra non-taxable income to them. The hope is that these payments could help defray the higher costs that some would face if next year's cost of living adjustments bump them into a higher tax bracket, prompting higher levies on their income and surcharges to Medicare Part B premiums. The Senior Citizens League plans to contact Congress with their campaign soon. The group plans to advocate for payments, particularly for low to middle income retirees, though it's flexible on terms to how the money would be distributed. To be sure, polls show additional stimulus checks are widely popular with Americans. A Data for Progress poll released in January showed that 65% of Americans are in favor of monthly $2,000 stimulus checks. Moreover, a March Bankrate survey showed that 61% of Americans said that the last $1,400 stimulus checks deployed earlier this year wouldn't last for more than 3 months. The Senior Citizens League said that many seniors have had to make financial adjustments since March of 2020 in response to the pandemic. Don't forget that President Biden has said in the past that he is open to a fourth stimulus check if Congress wants to put it in there. And there is over 150 economists, 21 senators that support reoccurring payments. The 21 senators actually moved up to 28 senators, which is more than half of the Democratic senators that support recurring monthly payments. Yes, monthly payments. There is over 80 lawmakers in the House of Representatives that support a further direct payments, with which be a fourth stimulus check. These are all Democrats, and remember, the Democrats are going to be the ones that pass the next stimulus package. So these are the guys that want a fourth stimulus check. So all they need to do is include it in this next stimulus package. And there's plenty of money in this next stimulus package. It's going to be the largest stimulus package ever. These are the guys that have also proposed monthly stimulus checks. Democratic Representatives Rashida Tlaib and Pramila Jayapal have introduced a bill for a one-time $2,000 stimulus check, followed by $1,000 monthly recurring payments that would go until not only the pandemic ends, but until 1 year after the pandemic is declared over. Yeah, that is to help out not only the American people, but the economy, because the economy is doing terrible. Yeah, $1,000 monthly recurring payments that would go until 1 year after the pandemic is declared over. This is a bill proposal that the Democrats themselves has introduced into the House of Representatives. Yeah, $1,000 monthly recurring payments. There's also another bill proposal by Senator Ed Markey and Elizabeth Warren that is pushing President Biden for $2,000 monthly stimulus checks. This bill proposal would go until the pandemic is declared over, which at this point could be a long, long time, with daily cases averaging over 150,000 people testing positive. Yeah, that could be a long, long time. So again, we have two different proposals from Democratic, from senators, and from the House of Representatives for monthly checks. Monthly checks. Now remember, they did enact monthly checks in the third stimulus check package called the child tax credits, $250 to $300 per month, the child tax credits, which equal a total of $3,000 to $3,600 for the year. So monthly checks are a thing for at least children, 65 million people, but those child tax credits end at the end of this year for 65 million people. They need to be reenacted in this next package. They say they do want to put that in this next package, but they have to pass the package, put it in writing, and include that. They also say they want to put an adult tax credits in this next package as well, which will likely be for adults making under $50,000. We don't know exactly how much that will be, who it will be for, how it will work. Will it be monthly checks like the child tax credit is monthly checks? But they do say that they want to put a child tax credit extension in there. Remember, the child tax credits end at the end of this year. So they want to put a child tax credit extension of those monthly checks. And they do say that the Democrats want to put an adult tax credit in this next package. But remember, they have to actually pass the package. They have to get all the Democrats on board. And I will keep you up to date with all the details and all the updates. So make sure to subscribe down below. It's completely free to do so. Remember, new videos come out here on our channel every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can click this top video here to watch my newest stimulus check video next. And this video is a very important update about Social Security increases that President Biden actually came out and said he just endorses. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.